Hello techies, I'm Divya here. On behalf of CyberBrainer, don't you think the world of tech is evolving faster than ever? Now is the perfect time to dive in and build the skills that will take you places. With CyberBrainer, we are putting you in the driver's seat of your own future. We at CyberBrainer don't just teach your interest. We believe that knowledge is power, but it's applied knowledge that truly sets you apart. Whether you're diving into data science, mastering artificial intelligence, or exploring the world of cybersecurity, our courses are designed to give you the skills that matter. So let's jump into the session and make the future yours today. Thank you.
Now we are going to be jumping on to what is called as creation of a custom report. The other day we saw a creation of a custom report, but we only saw simple reports. And what are the other different types of reports that I can create? Alright. I'm not using the nomenclature over here. Don't curse me. I'm just using it because I want this to understand what I'm creating. That's why I'm not using any nomenclatures here. First and foremost, I'm going to deal only a few of these. I'm not going to deal everything over here. For now, let us look only at simple. We have already seen about search. We'll see advanced next and then probably matrix report. We'll see matrix simple and then search. We already seen and then we'll see advanced. I don't want you to learn all of this right now because some of these going to be very confusing for you. If I'm going to introduce and the way those fields and everything is going to be designed is also quite complex. I'll deal only with smaller subsets of reports right now and then we'll go to next. Next and first up, we will be advanced reports. Advanced reports are nothing but based on simple reports. In advanced reports, we are going to have more number of filter criteria, security relevant stuff. And then I can have promptings. I can do much of stuff in my advanced report. That is number 1 over here. Alright, next matrix report. Probably you know, all of you know, what exactly a matrix kind of a structure is going to be. It is more a report which is going to be built with both rows as well as columns and a data level. I have to show you no. If I have to show you no easier way, here I'm going to have. Alright, this is going to be my month column, say on the column side. I'm going to have month and here I'm going to have right? I'm going to have Jan 2023. Alright, and I'm going to have something like New York. I'm going to have California. I'm going to have Delhi and everything. Alright, this is what I'm trying to evolve over here is. This is a simple matrix report. Alright, a standard report could look like for Delhi. What is going to be the month? What is going to be the rainfall for the month of January? My rainfall could be like 20 centimeters in February. It could be like 30 centimeters of rainfall in March. I could have it as 0, something similar to this. Whereas if I'm going to be building a matrix level report, I'm going to have both rows and columns as fields. And this is like, say, I'm going to have 10 over here, 20 here, 0 here. And then same way, I'm just going to be incrementing it with, say, some dummy values over here. 20, something like that. I'm just incrementing it randomly. Ignore the values that I just have built over here. I'm just putting a random equivalent value over here. Alright, this is typically a matrix kind of a report. Just like how you do matrices in your schooling or college whenever you studied matrix. Whereas this is just a single dimension report. For Delhi, what is going to be the rainfall for every month at a single city level? Whereas this is going to be a multi-dimensional structure, which we call it as a matrix report. Clear on this, Funda? What exactly we mean by it? A very simple example for this. I may even put this as something like what is going to be my revenue for different departments for sale. Sesha, and then I'm going to be putting it like marketing. Alright, and this one I would just put it as Arno. What is going to be my revenue or expense for different departments for every month? What is going to be this? Especially in finance reports. Imagine this to be. Ignore the values. They need not be really same. Imagine that these are in millions of dollars every month. What is going to be my revenue or my expense? Usually for finance, matrix reports are the ones that we usually build. Alright? You might have seen all your financial statements. And financial statements are usually built as a RNO. Sorry, are built as a matrix level report. Clear on this? Alright, especially if you're going to do finance reports, I usually use matrix report for that. Alright, that's why I said I don't want you to bog down with many reports. We'll see matrix advanced. We've already seen search. We've seen simple reports. For now, let's go into advanced, because advanced reports are the most commonly used reports for you. Alright. Next, optimized for performance. This is a very important field or a setting over here. And if I hover over this, it will show you something called, as it is going to show only indexed data sources. Alright. Because if I choose this in my data source, I will see only certain indexed data sources. And if you see, there is a small icon over here, right next to workers. You see a small thunderbolt kind of an icon. What that means is it is an indexed data source. If you see over here for these three, the first three or for all of them, you see an indexed data source over here because I've chosen the filter over here as optimized. Now I'm just removing this and I will of course get an alert. That alert is going to say enables you to select non-indexed data source. I've already explained what exactly an indexed and a non-indexed is. Now let me hit the same search and you will see a lot of different data sets over here as well. See this one, worker audit. There is a thunderbolt sign right next to it, which means this is an indexed data source. Now let me just pick randomly another one, worker billing date here. Here I do not have that particular option of indexed data source because this is not an indexed data source at all. Alright, and what is actually the advantage of an indexed data source is that performance is going to be better in my report, especially if I'm going to build a report which is going to have hundreds of thousands of data. I would rather want to choose an indexed data source. Clear on this, guys? What exactly it is? What is the difference between an indexed and a non-indexed data source? And for all practical purposes, I would want you to choose an indexed data source only. Workers for HCM reporting is a good data source. And we used it most of the times for all the HCM relevant information. And this is going to give workers as a primary object and returns one single row, which is going to be the latest effective data row per worker. Guys, clear on this? I'm just moving on to the next one because we are going to be creating an advanced report. And right at the start itself, if you see, you will see many different options over here compared to a standard report. A simple report. And next, let me introduce you one important topic which I always love. And the reason why I introduced that related business object is because, see here, I have a column over here which says business object, which means my primary business object is going to be worker. Whereas if in a real world, my client is asking for the position's job profile information, I can use this particular information here as well, which means from the worker business object, I am actually going across to my position business object via the related fields. And I am fetching a field which is probably going to be, say, job profile. Job profile from the position information. See the business object over here. Position and job. All staffing models have another one. Let me see that as well. Another one is going to be from my compensation rule targetables. Or let me pick another field as well. Let me pick something else like a grade which is going to be exclusive to my position and my job. I can have like a compensation grade profile. Everything else is also available. Let me pick compensation grade over here, which is going to be picked from my position, business object. Whereas in a simple report, you can pick the data only from your primary business object. Whereas in an advanced report, you can pick from a related business object which is relevant to my primary business object as well. Clear with what I'm trying to say? And why we saw that related business object is because of this particular distinction. Once you know what is going to be my primary business object while designing any report and what is the data that I need, you can practically play around with this. And you can pick only business objects which are related to my worker business object. I'm just waiting for this to load. And then I will show you which you can pick. Actually, alright, and my primary business object here is worker. And I can choose other business objects here as well, which I can have from here. Let me say location. I'm picking location as another business object over here. Worker for HCM reporting. I'm going back and doing it. Alright. I'm adding 2 new columns. One for which it's going to be position. It's going to be position. It's going to be position. And the field that I pick over here is going to be based on my related business object over here. See here. I go to this particular worker and I go to related business object. And this particular column or business object that you see over here is based on only this particular business object. And the links to this particular business object. Let me say position. To the position business object, I see 33 links over here. And that is the link field that you will see over here. See here, field name is position, which is part of my business object called as worker. And the related business object to this is going to be position, the same that you see over here. This is the one that it is actually pointing to over here. Alright. And from here I'm choosing this position. And for this position I can pick my comp grade. Clear on how it exactly works and how I'm just relating everything over there. Alright, now for location. Let me pick a very specific field which is available to my location. We saw earlier that. Let me pick our schedulers. They don't have that. Let me pick a location business object. And from the location business object, because we saw from the position I had picked something which is very specific only to my position, like a comp grade. And from my location also, let me pick a field which is going to be exclusive to my location. In the same report itself, I'm going to be picking something which is going to be specific only to my location. I don't have that over here. For location, let me pick something like an address. What I'm doing is for my location, I'm going to be picking my business site address information, which is going to be the address for that location. Right? Or, if I have to explain it in some of the database terminology, because some of you are from database background, I join my worker data with my location data using a join, an outer join. And then I pick the location's address information. I have two different tables. Imagine that I have two different tables. One is the worker data and I have the location data. I traverse from my worker data to my location data and I pick the location's address. That is what I've done over here specifically. Clear on this, what I have done with this report? Are you guys with me? Is it all clear what we do and why I was explaining the business objects and the related business objects? And again, you can use only the links to related objects when I have my worker as the primary business object. Whereas if it is going to be the reverse, I use this links from related business object. Clear on the funder? And why I am using this and why I introduce that particular related business object as very important is because of this particular relation. And let me tell you, if you understand this, you can literally play around with your reports. This is like bread and butter. Bread and butter. Because you can literally play around with this and you create any type of reports that you want, no matter which object and where you want to pick all those details from. Your next option that we have over here is called as sorting. The same sorting if I have it in my Excel report. If I want to sort it based on a specific field, common filters is going to be like, I'm going to be sorting it based on my employee ID or employee name in an alphabetical order. If I want to do it, I can do it over here. And this is the way I will do it. Next, I can also group based on a certain criteria, exactly the same way that I would group it in my Excel relevant information. The same grouping is what applies here as well. Alright, exactly the same. If I want to group this particular information, for example, I'm going to be creating some banding saying like, in this particular location, say in New York, I have 10 people in the salary band of 80 to 90K. I have 100 people in the salary band of 60 to 80K. I want to create some banding and grouping and everything. I will be using this sort and grouping information over here. Alright, next filters. Alright, I can have filters specific filters the way I want to filter my report. And it is always advised to have at least one or more filters, at least from a performance side of things. From a performance side of things, it is important that you try at least a few filters that your performance is not going to be hampered, especially if you are going to use non-indexed data sources. It is advisable to have filters. Otherwise, you may run into several performance issues. Alright. Sub-filters for now. Park it because that is an advanced topic. And I do not want to get into that. Once you understand filters, we can jump into sub-filters because this is a little advanced topic. Because there is another level of filter on filters. We call that as sub-filters. And that is based on the columns that I have already chosen in my report, is where your sub-filters are going to come in. Alright, park it for now. Once you understand all the others, we can get into sub-filters. Prompt fields. And if you see this prompt fields, we already saw what a prompt field is going to be. Any kind of prompts that I want to have at runtime, I can do it over here. I can set my prompts. And again, one important parameter that I want you to all to look at is this particular checkbox that you see over here. Populate undefined prompt defaults. What this actually means to see now, here you see 0 prompts available. You see 0 prompts available, but for certain data sources and business objects, you may get prompts field over here, which are by default tagged to my business object and my data source for this active workers report that have created the data source and the business object. We have default prompt parameters and they will be hidden. They will be hidden when you create the default report and they will be visible only when I check this particular checkbox. Otherwise, you will not see this. And what I mean is see this particular report I've already created. I did not create any prompt fields at all, but these fields are automatically available and are delivered. Alright, let me show this once report. And I am going to run this report over here. I did not give any prompt fields, but by default it is going to have worker type, employee type, and contingent worker type as my prompt filters. And where this is coming is from my data source and my primary business object level. And these are inbuilt in Workday as prompt defaults, and they are prompt defaults. And here now this will not show up unless and otherwise I check this particular option over here, prompt undefined prompt defaults, which is going to directly come in from my data source and my business object level. I will clear on this, and if I want, I can have this removed. I can have a different label over here instead of contingent workers type. I can say contingent type. This is going to actually prompt, or the prompt label is going to be overridden over here. This can be let me or employee type, and this could be worker type, or I can say EVU type. This one I can say E, and this is base type. And if I want to give some default values to this, I can give a default value. I can determine it either at the runtime, or I can even give a specific value over here as well. And only after I choose this particular column will come in. And next, the options over here are required. If I want the user to definitely have a specific value of the prompt, then I will choose it over here. In which case, if the user is not going to choose a value, this is going to hit an error. Let me just check this over here and then we will see. And next, do not prompt at runtime. I am saying that I do not want this field to be displayed at all during the prompt. I can just simply hide it over here. And next, in my subtitle of my report, if I want to include this particular field names, you can have it. Otherwise, I can completely ignore this particular option. Alright. And apart from these three that you see over here, if I want to add additional prompts, I can add prompt fields over here as well. Any questions on prompt? What exactly the prompt options are? Could you tell me a little about default type and default value? See, for example, let me see. I'm going to say either I'm not going to give any default values, or I can let the user choose a default value at runtime, or let me pick a default value. I'm going to specify this. Let me say that I'm choosing this as my default value and I've checked required over here. And let me run this particular report right now. Alright. I'm running this particular report right now. And if you see E-type, contingent type, BB type, the labels that I had over here, and it is by default, it is choosing as regular. It is just a default value in my prompt. If I want to do it, I can have it. Otherwise, I can just ignore it. I can just click on this. If I want to create a default value and you see a star right next to E-type, that is going to be remain. That is going to mean that it is mandatory. I cannot run this report which we are choosing any values, usually for report fields or prompt fields, which are mandate. Be it the user for any field or prompt value, where I'm going to maintain it as mandatory or required, we usually supply just a good to have or a good approach. We give a default value over there that even if the user forgets to give a value, it is not going to error out. Alright, see here it throws an error that E-type is a required value and it must have a value. Alright. And for such mandatory fields we would usually give, that's a good to have. It's not mandatory, it's just a good to have. We usually give a default value as well, and it's up to the user who runs this particular report to have more values that he wants to. That is as per his own will and wish. Alright, clear. The next tab that we have is called as output and output type. I can have it as multiple different types of reports. I can have it as a simple table which is going to look like Excel table which we commonly use only, or if I want that to look in a chart. I can create many different types of charts that I want to create, just like how you create it in your Excel, some kind of a bar chart, composite chart, whatever chart I want to create, a pie chart, donut, whatever you want to create. You can create it over here, completely up to you. But again, when you create such charts, ensure that you are going to create some grouping as well, that the chart is going to look meaningful. And that is the options that I have over here. I can create it as a chart or I can have it a chart plus a table as well. It's going to display both side on side and different options or different widgets. You're going to see that next is going to be your gauge chart, your simple gauge chart that you have seen in your Excel or otherwise. Just going to be a simple one, and you can explore this over today, and today you can just create some charts, tables, do whatever as per your own requirements that you feel it is going to be. You can explore this option. Nothing, I would say, it is not nothing too crazy. Just play around with this and you will understand what exactly it means. Enable as workload option. Just leave it for now. And because workload is nothing but what you see on your home page. Alright, for example, I'm just trying to build a report which is going to display the birthdays of all my reportees. I can create a report over here which is going to say worker name or my reporting name, date of birth, and that's where that workload comes in. I'm just only grazing through the top. I'm not going deep dive into it, but that's exactly what a worklet is. There are options to configure this. All of that. That's all advanced topics. Next, sharing. Like I showed you yesterday, I can share this report with specific users. Currently, it is only with Carol Lee, and you guys will also be able to see it because all of you are logged in. As Carol Lee, only you can view this particular report that I have created, and you can share it with authorized users. Specific groups. Groups is basically all the security groups that you've already created, maybe a user-based or a role-based, the way that I want to have it. The last tab that we have is called as Advanced. See here. We saw over there the data source and everything where we chose as optimized for performance. The same option is available over here as well, and if I want to make changes, I can change it over here by removing this, which is usually not recommended. If you remove this, it is not going to optimize based on my data source indexing. It is not going to perform. It's not going to optimize my performance based on my database indexing. That is the purpose of this particular report, but it is not recommended. It is not recommended. Alright, that is the first option that we have over here. Next, freezing my first column, just like what you have it in your Excel. The first column is going to be frozen, and if I scroll to the right, my first column alone is going to be frozen, and you can see all the number of columns that I have. Enable preferred currency. Whatever is going to be your preferred currency in your user preferences is going to be visible over here. If you want to say enable preferred currency, then your report is going to be displaying all the currency information in your preferred currency. Alright, and then again, if you are going to choose this, you need to have this enabled in your currency fields as well. Only then it will work and save parameters for the user. If you want to save some of the prompt parameters, you can use it that if they are going to run the same report umpteen number of times, their parameters are going to be saved. Alright, excluding the exclusion list from the search. When a user is going to perform global search, this report is going to come in the top. For example, I actually ran the test advanced unreport, and if I go back over here this report is going to be shown in the top as test unreport. If I want to exclude this from my search, I can do it over here. Alright. Next web service option. Like I said, I'm going to exclude it. Worksheets Prism as well. I'm going to exclude it. And temporary report for everybody. We will be only creating a temporary report for now. Because of some database constraint, we are not going to be enabling this particular option, at least in the training tenant, for now. Last, we have facet options. If you want to enable facet filters, just like what we saw in the Find Workers report, you can have it enabled. Alright, clear on this. These are all the options that you have over here, and you can go and explore it on during you. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.